Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you all the books that I ended up reading in the month of September. So I will say it was like an okay reading month. You'll see there was like two really low rated books. One that was like pretty good and then one that was, average, like I enjoyed it. And they're all over in terms of genre too, which makes it a lot of fun. But like I said, it was just kind of an average reading month, and there's a book that I'm currently reading now that I'm really liking, but I definitely know I won't finish it by the end of the month. So yeah, I'll mention that as an honorable mention at the end of this video, which I'll talk more about in my October wrap up. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So first up, I ended up reading this ginormous tome of a book, which is The Ink Black Heart by Galbraith, the newest installment in the Cormorant Strike series. And this one follows this woman who is a co-creator of this very famous cartoon, and she ends up coming to Robin saying, like, there's been all these kind of like social media bullying and like cancel culture stuff going on, and they're not able to take her on as a client as they have too many at the moment. But a few weeks later she is found murdered, and obviously Robin and Strike want to get themselves into the investigation, and it kind of goes off from there. I have like some mixed feelings about this one. I was really excited for this. Like, I definitely was really, I think one of the driving factors of me really liking this series is the relationship between Cormoran and Robin, which I feel like, I don't know, it's been dragged out too long, and at this point I'm like, just get together. Like, they just need to admit their feelings. But we'll see what the next book has in store. But that's like one of my driving things, and for this it was just like, I felt like they're not communicating very well, and all their problems would be solved if they just talk to each other, which is a little bit annoying. And then the whole thing too with kind of online, cancel culture and online bullying, you can tell like J.K. Rowling was basing it off of the hate she gave for her transphobia comments, which I think are well deserved. Like, if your words mean that much to people and you are kind of marginalizing an already marginalized group, then shame on you. But you can tell like this was very much kind of driven by that, which kind of made me roll my eyes, because it was like very, very obvious what she was kind of going at. And yeah, like, and it was also way too long. It's over 1,000 pages, and I felt like it seriously could have been condensed quite a bit to maybe, a 500-page book, like literally cut in half, and I think it would have been fine. But I still, like, I think it wasn't until like the 600-700 page mark where things actually started to pick up. I felt like there were a lot of too many red herrings and too many suspects initially to kind of, like grasp what is going on. But I still like enjoyed it. I still enjoyed kind of the last like 300 pages. I just had some issues with it, and like I said, conflicting feelings too, because I do enjoy this series, but I do like have like some opinions on J.K. Rowling, so it's hard, like, do I support this series? Like, she's already made her money, so like me buying one book won't make a difference. It's a very much like, I feel like kind of like that pit in my stomach when I read these books, because I feel guilty, and because I really much disagree with her views and her marginalization of, trans people. Like, it's really upsetting, and so it's really like conflicting, and I think a lot of you probably feel that as well. So this one wasn't my favorite of the series. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy the ending, but I feel like an editor needed to go through this like with a fine-tooth comb. I think it could have been edited down to be shorter, less preachy of J.K. Rowling's personal experiences, and yeah, all that stuff. But I think I will continue with the series, because I'm like invested at this point. Next, I ended up picking up Carrie, Soto is Back by Jenkins, Reid. And this one I was really excited for. Kind of over the summer I did a marathon of Taylor Jenkins Reid's most recent novels, with Davy Jones and the Six, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then Malibu Rising. And I finished Malibu Rising a few weeks before I ended up picking this up, which is where we kind of get a kind of you know, introduction to Carrie. And so I was really excited for this. I've really enjoyed her, like, Taylor Jenkins Reid's novels and how she's able to create these like complex characters, and these women that are so complex, and you know, they're flawed, they can be unlikable at times, but you still can't help rooting for them. And I do have like a more in-depth review of this. One of my light bulbs came out, so I apologize. But basically, like, I was just very much disappointed by this one. I felt like Carrie, like, the evolution, I think, like, what is really good. It's hard not to compare this to, like, Daisy Jones and the Six or the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. But what I really like about it is that their main protagonists have such a character arc and evolution. So when we're introduced to them at the beginning of the novel, there is no, like, they're very different people from where we kind of leave off. And for Carrie, there is no evolution. This follows Carrie, who at her prime is the kind of the world's best tennis player, and she retires, and when someone gets close, when actually breaks her record or ties her record, she decides to come out of retirement to prove that she is still the best. And we follow her progression of training and, you know, eventually competing in these grand slams and her experience there. But like I said, there was no evolution for Carrie. There was no kind of moral evolution where she kind of has an epiphany being like, maybe there's more to life than tennis, maybe there's more to me than tennis, like maybe like my world is bigger than like a racket and a ball. There was no evolution. I felt like she was just very unlikable, and she's a character that is aware that she's being mean and rude to people around her, but she just doesn't care. Like, she actively will be like, oh, like in her like internal commentary, she'll be like, oh, I know that was mean, but I still said it anyways. And it was just like hard to root for her. Like, and it was very predictable in terms of, because there's 4 grand slams and you can kind of guess what's going to happen in each one in terms of the character, like what is going to happen to Carrie with these ones. So like, it was just, I don't know, very disappointed. I don't feel like this book was very necessary. So I hope her next book is definitely a lot better than this one. Like I said, I've heard like a lot of people have in my review video have left similar comments too. So yeah, like I said, it just doesn't live up to the complex characters and like the really amazing character arcs that she gave her characters in, you know, Daisy Jones and the Six and the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So yeah, I did like the tennis writing. I think that was really well done to keep me engaged. But other than that, I just didn't care for the characters. Next up, I ended up picking up the Tales and Teacups book club picks for the months of September and October, which was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This is a book that's been on my shelf for over a year now, and I definitely wanted to pick it up. And I've heard great things about this, so I was really excited to dive right in, and I honestly loved it. I think it's best to kind of not know too much about the synopsis. We follow a man named Piranesi who lives in kind of this labyrinth style home. I'll have a picture of it here to kind of better describe it, and I think that's all you really need to know about it. But I really love this. There's something, like, it says, it calls it on the side here, spellbounding, strange, and unforgettably original, and I 100% agree with that. I have never read anything quite like this, and I was just drawn in. And the way Piranesi, he's a very naive narrator, so you don't really understand, like, his perspective on things I feel like sometimes is very like childish, but he talks about, you know, the tides in these rooms, like his relationship with the different like seagulls and birds that live in each of these different rooms. And there's a lot of themes about kind of solidarity, like not solidarity, but being kind of alone, and, you know, our relationship to the world around us and the relationship kind of vice versa of the world on us, which I really liked. I do feel like the first like part of this book was very slow. Like, it was just kind of very much establishing the kind of the world and the setting, and it doesn't really necessarily pick up until like the 80 or so page mark after we get past part 2. But then I was really invested because it kind of turns into like a murder mystery type thing with semi-unreliable narrator, because this book is told in journal entries from Piranesi, and so I just think it's really best to kind of just dive right in. And I definitely want to pick up Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norwal. My boyfriend just reread that one recently, and he said it really held up, and he found like a paragraph that kind of loosely is like kind of the building of this Piranesi world, which is interesting. But yeah, this book was just so magical, very lyrical, kind of dream-esque, and yeah, I just thought it was really well done. And you still, like, you can always read these, you know, book clippings whenever you want, and you can always comment on them. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought. I'm happy I finally picked this one up. It was just, I've never read anything quite like this, and it's definitely one of my favorite books of the year so far. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, only because the beginning, like the first 80 or so pages, were slow, but other than that, I really enjoyed this. And lastly, to kind of round everything up, I do have another disappointing read, which was The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, and I was really excited for this. I feel like with a lot of the hyped TikTok books, they're either hit or misses, and this one was a miss for me for sure. This follows 6 people in this world, like kind of our world, where there's people have magical capabilities, and these 6 people are selected to be part of the initial group for training to become part of the Alexandrian Society, which essentially the Library of Alexandria didn't burn down in this world. And so at the end of this first year, they have to pick the final one that won't make it through. And I even think it says in here that, yeah, like they just 5 people won't make it. I don't want to see like what the spoiler. Yeah, will fight to survive the next year of their lives. So I feel like the big like twist in here was that they basically have to kill one person in order for the 5 to kind of go through to the initiation. So like the big thing here is like finding out that someone has to die, but it literally tells you on the back. But this book, I was just super disappointed. I felt like it had so much potential, and I don't understand the 5-star reviews because it was just terrible. Like I was miserable reading this, and usually I was in like a really good reading mood with like all the books that I read prior to this, and I just like did not want to pick it up. And then I was just like, I'm just gonna try to speed read it to finish to see if the ending was worth it, and it wasn't. One of the problems I had with this is that the characters were just so unlikable and pretentious, and I think there's like something to be said too for dark academia. I feel like The Secret History has also done this too, where they have kind of unlikable characters, but I was still invested in what was going to happen. Like I still was engaged in their stories, and then in this case I literally could not care less about them. Like they were so, like, I don't know, they were just really, like, I didn't care for the situation that they were in, like, and yeah, just didn't, they're just really unlikable, and not in a good way where it's like they're unlikable but you can't help but root for them sort of thing. Like I just did not care for them. And the kind of describing of this world, like it doesn't make sense in terms of how the magic system is described. It was just like nothing was explained. Like even the kind of house that they're doing their trainings at like wasn't explained. How the library was explained, like nothing was explained. And so it's just like, I don't know what's going on. Like this stuff like just doesn't make sense because they just don't explain it. And yeah, it was like nothing happens for like literally 300 pages and the last part, like it was, you know, interesting but not enough to keep me along. And I don't understand the hype for this because I even like switched over to the ebook version of like the edited version that was like published to see if like maybe things would change in terms of the writing style being like overly pretentious. No, it was just as bad. I got it from the library and I was just really disappointed. Like it was just unlikable characters, over pretentious writing style, and there was literally no plot progression for the vast majority of the book. There was no explaining of the magic system or the library. Like it was just, I was like this the entire time. I'm like, and you can tell the author has her favorites because there's a lot of characters that are kind of pushed to the background that you don't get a lot of their perspectives. You get like 3 main ones and then the other ones are just kind of there. But yeah, it was just bad. Like even the ending, I wasn't very much surprised by it. I was just like, like it had so much potential, but I felt like it just fell flat in so many different ways. And I was really excited too. I pre-ordered the sequel in preparation, and I like canceled it after this one because I was like, it's not worth it. My boyfriend's gonna read it and he's gonna let me know if it's worth sticking out for, but after this one, I don't know. Like, I feel like it has so much potential, but the execution was just really bad. And finally, this is just the honorable mention, what I'm currently reading right now, and it is The Bullet That Missed by Richard Osman. I got this from the library, and I'm about a third of the way through. This is the third book in the Thursday Murder Club series, and so the gang end up investigating this cold case where this woman was a journalist who was investigating this big kind of money laundering scheme, and she is like ends up being kind of her car getting pushed off a cliff and her body was never found. It kind of goes off from there, but I'm really enjoying this. I'll kind of talk about more of this in my October wrap up, but this is the book that I'm currently reading and loving. So it's better, like I feel much better, especially after finishing out the month with this bad book, that I'm reading a book that I actually want to read and I'm enjoying the experience. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books you read this month and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.